I'm beginning to lose a little bit of faith in the common sense judgment of the people who are being selected to do these votes. It isn't so. Murph coming up short. Dale Murphy got 6 lousy votes. Let's never forget that what Murph has is far greater than a plaque hanging on a wall. How do you go into a room and come out with 50% more votes for Carlos Delgado? And to this day, the man has done nothing but stand tall as a hero in modern days when we're so cynical, when we desperately need him. He's the Mr. Rogers of baseball, this guy. Before we begin, don't forget to like, comment, and by all means, most of all, subscribe to The Ricky Cobb Show. It is The Ricky Cobb Show channel on YouTube. We are dropping great new content for you sweet bastards each and every day, and we want you to be a part of it because this is a show by the people, for the people, and you, my friends, are my people. And we will begin today, unfortunately, with some disappointing news. Dale Murphy, I had hoped to come in here today, this Monday program, the day after the Major League Baseball Contemporary Era Committee met at the winter meetings, and celebrate the fact that Dale Murphy was now a Hall of Famer. Alas, it isn't so. Murph coming up short, the only individual to be selected to Cooperstown out of the 8 folks under consideration, Jeff Kent, of all people, who got 14 out of 16 votes. But look, no disrespect to Jeff Kent, who I think is a worthy Hall of Famer. Dale Murphy got 6 lousy votes. I tweeted it out. I said, I am, like so many of you, beyond disappointed. But let's never forget that what Murph has is far greater than a plaque hanging on a wall in a building somewhere. He has the admiration, the respect, and indeed the love of millions of us. Dale Murphy was yesterday, is today, and will be tomorrow the people's choice. He's the people's champion, is what I tweeted. Unfortunately, not taking his rightful place in the Hall of Fame, and I'm really disappointed with the process here. As we noted, the interview that I did with Tim Kirkjian last week, 12 of 16 votes needed. You need 75% of the room, and it is a room comprised half of Hall of Fame players, and then it is composed of writers, executives, historians, and so forth, making up the rest of the ballot. 16 total people, and you got to have 12 of the 16 to get the nod. As I said, Jeff Kent, the only one getting there. He got 14 of 16 votes. The only other person to receive even half was Carlos Delgado. Again, nothing against Carlos Delgado, 2-time All-Star. He was a fine player. How do you go into a room with Dale Murphy, Don Mattingly, and come out with 50% more votes for Carlos Delgado? Mattingly and Murphy, this was their 4th time on what used to be called the Veterans Committee ballot. 4 times now. They have come up snake eyes. And again, I don't begrudge Jeff Kent being in, and if Carlos Delgado had made it, I'd be happy for him. It's Tim Kirkjian, far more knowledgeable on baseball than myself. And I will say, I don't meet a lot of people that I feel have a better grasp on baseball history than me, if I may say so. With Tim, it's palpable. Every time I speak to him, I feel like I'm going to school. And Tim Kirkjian said on this show last week that he thought 7 of the 8 players had a credible Hall of Fame case. The one that he and I agreed was a little bit below the threshold was Fernando Valenzuela. And if Fernando Valenzuela made it to the Hall of Fame, he wouldn't be the worst guy there. Okay? And if Fernando had made it, I'm enough of a Fernando fan, I wouldn't have even been upset about that. But to me, Kent, Delgado, you can get in line behind Murphy and Mattingly to start with, because these guys have been twisting in the wind for a very long time. And I just want to give a shout out to some of my fellow Dale Murphy fanatics. Rick Klein over at ABC News, Bill Shanks, many others, just working hard, trying to promote the case of Dale Murphy. And it seemed that we had the wind at our sails this year. There was a smell of victory in the air, but as it turns out, I guess it was just napalm, because Dale Murphy not only not making it, but coming up 50% short of where he needed to be. 10 people in that room did not vote for Dale Murphy. Danny Ainge, a former major leaguer, but you probably remember him a little bit better for being a Boston Celtic, says two-time MVP, so wrong. Speaking for so many of us. And the outpouring of grief, really, yesterday and into the day-to-day, I think speaks of how thunderstruck so many of us are that Dale Murphy did not get the nod. So again, Jeff Kent and Carlos Delgado came within 3 votes of making it. He got 9 of the 16. And then Dale Murphy and Don Mattingly, the only others to get more than 5 votes, 6 votes apiece. If you get fewer than 5 votes, they don't even announce how many you got, presumably to preserve your fragile ego. But Jeff Kent, who, again, I said last week when I was talking to Tim, this guy is a second baseman, most home runs for a second baseman, 500 slugging percentage for his career, which is damned impressive for somebody that is playing that position. I do not come here today to rain on Jeff Kent's parade. Jeff Kent was going to be a Hall of Famer sooner than later. I feel like he may have jumped the line a little bit here, going around Murphy and Mattingly, but all respect to Jeff Kent, who I think deserves it. And again, 7 of the 8 guys, I think, in terms of their play and merits, deserve it. Now, the other story here, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. As I said to Kirkjian last week, Barry Bonds is the best hitter of my lifetime. And I say that with all respect to the pure hitting ability of Tony Gwynn and Rod Carew, and the greatness of Ken Griffey Jr. and Frank Thomas and a lot of other really fine hitters. But Barry Bonds is the best I've ever seen do it. You look at his numbers, there's a reason that he got intentionally walked 120 times in a season. There's a reason that he had 232 walks in a season. There's a reason he has a career .444 on base percentage. Are you kidding me? Barry Bonds, the most dangerous hitter of my lifetime, and he's right up there with Ted Williams and Babe Ruth all time. 7-time MVP. We know the reason that he's not going in. We know the reason that he's not being voted for. His case is not one about weighing the numbers. The only thing that people are weighing here is what did he do that artificially enhanced his ability. Same with Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens might be the greatest pitcher of all time. He's probably the greatest pitcher of my lifetime. And I say that with respect for Tom Seaver. I say that with respect for Greg Maddux. I say that with respect for Steve Carlton, Randy Johnson. A lot of great pitchers, but 7 Cy Young Awards for Roger Clemens. 6-time 20-game winner. We know what Roger Clemens did. 2 20 strikeout games. Number 3 on the all-time strikeout list. And the reason that he's not getting the votes, he's not going in, is he is not being forgiven for his transgressions against the game in terms of performance-enhancing drugs. And I had asked Kirkjian last week, I said, where is the mood on this? Things seem to soften over time. Things seem to soften. Remember Mike Tyson at one time? People would have told you 30 years ago, they would have said, that guy's a convicted rapist. This guy he's a terrible person. All of this. Decades later, we look at Mike Tyson, rightly or wrongly, however you want to see it, we look at him much differently now. Michael Vick, when he got kicked out of the NFL for all of the stuff that went on, the dog fighting and everything that happened in his life outside of the game of football. Eventually, he was welcomed back into the league. And today, if people talk about Michael Vick, yeah, that stuff will come up sooner or later, but he's not viewed as harshly as he was. Time has a way of softening things. Pete Rose, in the beginning, after everything went down in the late 80s with Giamatti and baseball's investigation and the lifetime ban, over time, I would argue the mood of the country softened significantly in Pete Rose's favor. And so as you look at this and you think it's been a lot of years now that have gone by for both Bonds and Clemens, and I thought, well, maybe the winds of change and public forgiveness are going to at least give them a chance. I didn't expect either of them to go in this year. I wouldn't have been surprised if we had seen either one of them end up with 8 or 10 votes. They both made it up to around 65% their last year with the writers. So the public sentiment there was softening somewhat. They were both about 10% short of where they needed to be. But apparently the Contemporary Era Committee, a little less forgiving than the writers, at least in this instance. So for Dale Murphy, what happens next? Well, we got to wait for the Contemporary Era ballot to roll around again, which is going to be, I think, another 3 years. I haven't looked at the calendar, to be honest with you. I'm a little too fucking bummed out to be worried about it too much now. But more depressingly is even when his turn rolls around again in 3 years or whenever it is, if only 6 out of 16 could see the picture this time around, I'm beginning to lose a little bit of faith in the common sense judgment of the people who are being selected to do these votes. And look, for all I know, Juan Marichal and, Tony Perez, Jim Cott, who we had on this program. Look, Jim Cott's 85, 86 years old. He's sharper than most people half his age. So in his case, age is not a factor. And maybe it's not for the other people too, but you got to start wondering without pointing fingers at anybody, because for all I know, Perez, Marichal, and Cott may have been 3 yes votes for Murphy. We don't know who voted for or against. So I'm not going to sit here and stereotype and say, well, this person shouldn't have a vote for this reason. But if you get 16 people in a room and only 6 of the 16 can conclude that Dale Murphy deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, there's something wrong with the process. You're picking the wrong people. You're picking the wrong people if that is the case. Because I'm telling you right now, 37.5% of the room is not indicative of the career that Dale Murphy had. And I want to be real careful here, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. I hate to throw other people under the bus to make a point about somebody that I'm in favor of. You know, this, a whole lot, some of you will remember when Jack Morris was, getting close to getting elected to the Hall of Fame, there's a lot of people that really came down hard on Jack Morris. Well, his ERA's 3.90, he doesn't deserve it, blah, 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 blah. And it became like this attack on Jack Morris that never would have happened to him if he hadn't have made it to the Hall of Fame or been close to making it, which he ultimately did. He gets used as an example of, a pitcher who maybe shouldn't be there. Look, I'm telling you now, Harold Baines, I'm sorry to say it, I didn't tweet it today. Part of me wanted to mention him. And this is an argument that works out well for a lot of people. You can't judge the Hall of Fame by their biggest mistakes, or else you could just bust the doors open and let people run in like cattle. But Harold Baines is in the Hall of Fame because he's a friend to Tony La Russa. Plain and simple. You tell me there is nobody who remembers the 1980s or the 1990s that has a lick of sense, that is anybody that you would listen to on the subject of baseball, that would tell you Harold Baines was ever better than Dale Murphy. He had more longevity. He compiled more stats by hanging around until he was 40 or whatever he was at the end of his career. That's it. He wasn't a good fielder. He's a DH for a huge chunk of his career. He didn't have as much power as Dale Murphy. Wasn't as good of a hitter. Wasn't as good of a fielder. He had more longevity. Look at Murphy's stats here. I am a big believer that peak matters. There's nothing wrong with compiling. Don Sutton is in the Hall of Fame. He won 324 games because every year he went out there and went 16-11. And there's a place for that, and Don Sutton absolutely is a Hall of Famer. But Dale Murphy, for a period of about 6 years, was the best player in the National League, and he might have been the best player in baseball. If you look at his peak, and if you go back to the 80s, we've already talked about it, second on the home run list of the 80s, and second on the bases in the 80s, okay? Extra bases. Take a look at this, though. The man was absolutely dominant for over half a decade. And on top of that, who's more famous? It is the Hall of Fame, after all. Who was more famous than the guy that was on TBS in everybody's living room night after night after night after night? So he passes the fame test. He passes the greatness test, back-to-back MVPs, 5 Gold Glove Awards, and he passes the character test. In a world where we have heard so much over the last generation about Pete Rose doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame because of his character, and he did the thing that you can't do. Wherever you come down on that issue, we all know that we've heard that again and again and again. The reason Pete Rose isn't in is a character issue, and we look at it right now. This weekend, Bonds, Clemens, and probably even Sheffield, who I think Sheffield needs to be looked at again. I think there are real questions whether Gary Sheffield ever did anything knowingly. And Gary Sheffield, as a player, belongs in the Hall of Fame. He would have gotten my vote, all right? He's having that held against him as well. But here's the other thing, folks. Dale Murphy, you don't have a hint of that. Not only do you not have a hint of suspicion, all you have are stories of people talking about how when they were a kid, he went out of his way to do something special for them, that he was a great role model. And to this day, the man has done nothing but stand tall as a hero in modern days when we're so cynical, when we desperately need him. He's the Mr. Rogers of baseball, this guy. And it is not a sympathy vote to put in a 2-time back-to-back MVP who had a over half-decade run as the best player in his league and played Gold Glove center field on cable television when only 2 teams were on national cable. You tell me where we have gone wrong here with this. Please explain to me where we have gone wrong, because I don't understand it. And look, Dave Parker, if you follow Super 70s, you know I was a huge Dave Parker proponent. I had a blurb on the back of the guy's autobiography, Dust Jacket, for God's sake. He was on my old podcast. I'm a huge Dave Parker fan. God rest his soul. Jim Rice is another guy that I grew up thinking was so great. How could anybody put up the numbers that Jim Rice was putting up in the late 1970s? Blew my little mind. Neither one of those guys was a better player than Dale Murphy. Dave Parker, who I believe is a Hall of Famer. Jim Rice, who I believe is a Hall of Famer. Neither of those guys were better than Dale Murphy. So why are they in and Dale Murphy's not? Especially when in Dale Murphy's case, you would think a Lou Gehrig Award winner and a Roberto Clemente Award winner would receive some benefit of the doubt if you're on the bubble trying to decide what it is that you're going to do. So I don't know. In light of this, you tell me how seriously you can take the Hall of Fame. How seriously should we take the Hall of Fame voting at this point? Because right now, at this particular moment, I'm discouraged enough to say, maybe it doesn't really matter. Maybe the only thing that really matters are the memories that you and I have in our minds and have in our hearts. And perhaps that's true not only for Dale Murphy, but for every player who ever played the game. Let's talk about football, shall we? Something a little bit happier. Dale Murphy fans who happened to go to Indiana probably were conflicted yesterday. Their disappointment was washed away with an incredible victory that we saw this weekend from Indiana. I don't know how you could have 2 bad days in a row if you are an Indiana fan. You got to be riding high. It's unbelievable. What Kirk Cignetti has done is maybe the best coaching job I've ever seen at the college or the pro level. Remember when he got hired and he said, I win, Google me. And you're thinking, okay, let's settle down, new Indiana football coach. A lot of people were looking at that and thinking, who the fuck is this guy? I win, Google me. Well, check back less than 2 full years later, and where are we at now with this guy? Looking at what he's done. Indiana, your Big Ten champions. We have not heard from Ronnie T-Shirts. We might need to have a wellness check over in Italy right now. I hope that he comes back. Indiana, somehow, amazingly, your Big Ten champions. And Fernando Mendoza, perhaps Heist Mendoza, some might say this year, with a post-game interview on the field that went viral for being so fucking wholesome. Let's listen.
Congratulations, Indiana, the Big Ten champs. How does that sound?
It sounds so beautiful. I want to give all the glory to God. We were never supposed to be in this position, but by the glory of God, the great coaches, great teammates, everyone we have around us, we were able to pull this off. Whoever thought the Hoosiers would be here, but now the Hoosiers are flipping champs. Let's go!
You guys call yourself a bunch of misfits who found the right home at Indiana. Why was this the right place for this group?
It's the right place for process-oriented. We're going day by day. Whether it's the offensive line, the defense, the coaches, special teams, we're all process-oriented to one goal. That's our thing, is we're brothers. We can drag teams into the deep end because we know that we're going to stick together and we're the strongest glue ever.
Tell me about finding Charlie Becker, 3rd down, 2 minutes to go. We talk about Heisman moments, but take me through that one.
Man, what an incredible, he's been every single day in summer. We were always throwing before practice, before at 7 a.m. on Sundays, doing spots, doing routes, and now you see it to come to fruition. He's my roommate, couldn't be happy for such a young man as well as our defense playing lights out. And well, everybody just, what an incredible moment.
Congratulations, enjoy it.
Thank you so much, God bless, go Hoosiers.
And then he went back to 1955, where apparently this motherfucker just lives when he's not out winning football games. That is like, he's like a teenager from Happy Days. Do you think that he went to Arnold's after the game and had a milkshake with Potsy and Ralph Mouth? I tweeted out, what a sincere kid. How refreshing to see that. They're flipping champs, Tim. Producer Tim, the Indiana Hoosiers are your flipping Big Ten champions.
So good.
A good scene.
And he pops the eyes. Dude, when I tell you, we've talked this. My wife gets pissed when I rewind things when we watch games. She rewound that interview 3 different times and just could not believe the authenticity and yes, that he's still a kid with the exuberance. It was awesome. It was such a great flag on your part, but even watching it again, I just chuckle. My God, what a gem. What a gem.
I mean, it's hard not to root for them. I love Cignetti's swagger, to be so confident that you go into a school that hasn't won an outright football Big Ten championship since 1945, okay? And to say, I win, Google me, and then takes them where he did last year, which was damned impressive.
Yeah, in the playoff.
And then to follow that up, 13-0, Big Ten champs, if they got a shot to run the table and win the Natty, at this point, I think, I feel like if they run it back with Ohio State will find a way to beat them. I'm not saying that matchup is going to occur necessarily. We'll see what happens. But it's a tall order to win it all. But, I mean, when you're 13-0 and you've beaten Ohio State, they obviously have the self-belief at this point to think that they can run the table.
The toughness. Yeah, I was surprised. We were texting during the game. I thought Indiana was certainly thought they were a cute story last year. I knew they were a legit story this year. I wasn't sure what a good football team they were, But my goodness, I think Ohio State had something like 58 yards rushing in the first half. They were just smash mouth, in your face, big time athletes. Yeah, really impressive. I do think they can run the table, Ricky. I know Ohio State hadn't really been tested either, but boy, they looked good. And Signetti did disappoint post game. I was explaining to my wife, after we rewound Mendoza 3 times, like, oh, wait till you hear the head coach. He's a lunatic. Just Google me. And he was kind of tame. He was kind of tame both on the dais and post game, but still, yeah, great story and good for him, man. 2 years in, little old JMU before that, who ironically are in the playoff this year. It's such a great story. It really is.
Well, it makes me think of Lane Kiffin as well. Lane Kiffin, who walks away from his team that is in the playoff so that he can go to another team that's a better situation. Lane Kiffin's entire life is like trying to trade up. Tim, have you ever heard of the guy who started with a paperclip and then he just started making trades? He traded his paperclip for something better, and then he traded the something better he got for something better, and then he ended up like with a house. Have you ever heard of that guy? You should look.
It's not Lane Kiffin,
look that up.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's not Lane Kiffin, but Lane Kiffin is always trying to trade up, even when he's in the fucking tournament. He's so opportunistic. He's looking to trade up. But here's what I don't get, man. If Signetti can go to Indiana and in 2 years make them Big Ten champions, right. I mean, none of us would have even conceived of it. It wouldn't have even seemed possible, even just a few short years ago, 2 years ago when he got there. It's just you're going up against too much to be able to do that, but he's able to do it. Okay, so explain that to me. Why do you have to be at one of, 4 or 5 or 6 institutions in order to have a chance to win every year? Because it seems like to me the way that you build traditions are you go places and you build something. Every dynasty, every elite program, it's got to kick in somewhere. And this isn't your father's college football. We're living in a completely different era now. Let's look at the bracket, shall we? And let's get into the controversy surrounding that. Here is what you're looking at right here. It's set. Your 12 teams, and Tim, conspicuous in their absence, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And boy, are they not happy about it, Tim. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting, Ricky, right? Like a lot of people questioning ESPN's role in it. Why? The thing that I don't get is how does a team not play both Miami and Notre Dame, and then you jump them down in the rankings? So a lot of people saying that Notre Dame was in there just for the intrigue the last 6 or 7 weeks just to get people interested. And then, of course, if you tweeted, we've got the tweet, Notre Dame saying thanks, but no thanks to going to a sort of a lesser bowl. Yeah, I don't get how. I will say that Clay Travis was amongst others who called it, that the committee, there was no way they were going to just not live up to the head-to-head comparison of Miami beating Notre Dame. But why did you wait to the last ranking? I can't speak to that. It's too bad, man, because I mentioned JMU in the bracket. Tulane has played Ole Miss already, right? We're going to get a rematch. I think it was week 5. Tulane got throttled by 35 points, so I do think the committee, a lot of people calling it the worst committee ever. I would say take a look at the Veterans Committee for the Hall of Fame vote this year, maybe.
Yeah.
Would be the worst.
Yeah.
But yeah, no offense to JMU, love Harrisonburg. Say it again.
I said not even the worst committee of the day.
It's interesting, right?
Much less ever.
Same freaking day. That could be a good little sports minute, maybe. Good God, on the same day we see 2 committees. Yeah, man, no offense to JMU, no offense to Tulane. They just don't belong in this playoff, and I think you're going to get 2 really, really lopsided games, maybe 3. That first round, that just sort of speaks to that, that automatic qualifier, the group of 5, all that other stuff, which obviously goes away next year. It's too bad because I do think, it's going to take a little bit of the luster off of what really has been a pretty good season so far.
Well, it's interesting how we love the upstarts and the underdogs in March Madness, but when it comes to football, nobody seems to have any time for it. we look at it and we see, I mean, it's cool to see James Madison and Tulane in there, but realistically, neither one of those teams are as good as Notre Dame. So I get the argument. And frankly, I don't think anybody saw two of these have-nots making it in. It's the ACC being such a total clusterfuck. You have a 5-loss team that comes out as your champion. And then I think at that point, Miami, are they going to skunk the ACC?
No.
I don't know.
Happen.
I mean, they're not. And the ACC openly campaigning against Notre Dame. And Bavakwa at Notre Dame says that the ACC they've damaged their relationship with Notre Dame permanently, were his words, because they feel like it's one thing for Miami to make that argument. It's another thing for the conference to come out and gang up on Notre Dame. How do you feel about that?
Notre Dame has always been in this never land, right? Who are they with? What conference? We're sort of in, we're sort of out. Look, they're good. They're the Yankees of college football, right? I can understand why the committee would want them in. But you can't underestimate that head-to-head matchup, right? The head-to-head, Miami won. Granted, it was week, whatever it was, 1, 2, or 3. I think it was week 1.
It was in August, Tim.
Yeah.
But listen, I want to talk about that win, because that win doesn't impress me very much. I know it's a win, but they beat Notre Dame by 3 at home in August.
Yeah.
I mean, Notre Dame has won 10 in a row.
Holding penalty missed too. Really bad holding penalty missed at the end there. Yeah.
Notre Dame is on a 10-game winning streak, and only one of those wins was by less than 2 touchdowns. And that was a 10-point win over number 20 USC. Now, look, I get it. You're looking at a Notre Dame team. They started 0-2, again, against very good teams. Then they rattled off 10 in a row, but the best win of those 10 was against number 20 USC.
Yeah.
So, they weren't playing really good teams, but I mean, they were drilling people, dude. And so now we end up with James Madison and Tulane, and it feels like these are, 1 versus 16 NCAA basketball games where James Madison's going to walk into Oregon and they're going to get stomped like a narcotics officer at a biker rally.
Stop the fight.
Tulane.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, did Tulane really? Did anybody want to see Tulane play Ole Miss?
No, not after you saw them week 5. Yeah, no way. Look, man, and Alabama getting in with 3.
Nobody wants that.
Alabama getting in with 3 losses. I know the conference championship. Well, first of all, get rid of all the conference championship games if they're not going to matter. But you can't lose by 35 or whatever the hell the final was. They got stomped by Georgia, but the committee looks the other way because it's Bama. 3 losses. Let's put them in. So look, there's no perfect answer. The playoff was supposed to solve this, right? It was supposed to solve the debate, solve the human element, BCS before that. They still haven't gotten it right. I do think expanding the field will help, but I'm with you, man. Very different sport. No one wants to see, I don't mind seeing JMU and hoop, because maybe, just maybe, they can pull the upset on a basketball court. It's just a different level with football. It just is.
Yeah, it is. There's no doubt about it, Tim. This episode of the Ricky Cobb Show today is brought to you by PrizePicks. And this is the season of decision making. You got decisions that you want to make. What is going to be on the table at the holiday dinner? Are you or are you not going to have it out with that relative that you have differing political beliefs with? Are you going to get the presents that you want from other people? But for those of us that are sensitive and know that it's really more about giving than receiving, we're trying to figure out how we're going to get just the right gifts for everyone. And then we got to figure out what games we're going to watch on TV. And it's the best time of the year for that, because we've got college football that means something. We got pro football that means something. We got the playoffs directly ahead of us. We have basketball underway. And the best place for you to take your knowledge and make choices that will put money in your wallet is at America's #1 fantasy sports app, PrizePicks. And there are so many things I love about PrizePicks, but I'm going to give you a couple. One, it's simple. You download the app, you go in there. It is not like trying to do Chinese calculus. You understand it immediately, and you can get right to work doing what you want to do, which is having fun, making picks, and trying to convert your rightness into dollars. And you got options when you do that as well. If you're a little more risk averse, maybe you want to do the flex play. The flex play allows you to get something wrong in your lineup, but still cash in and be a winner anyway. Or maybe you're the kind of person that likes to go for the par 5 and 2, and you want to be rewarded for your boldness. Well, in that case, maybe you're going to like the power play, where you've got to get everything right, but the payouts are just that much bigger. No matter how you like to roll, PrizePicks has the flexibility and the game for you. And to welcome you aboard, I've got the offer that you can't pass up. Use my code Ricky and play a $5 lineup, and you will receive $50 in lineups. It's as simple as that. Download the app, use my code Ricky when you sign up. Play a $5 lineup, and you will get $50 in lineups on the house with which to build your bankroll and win enough that you'll probably be able to pay for everybody else's presents and your own this holiday season, because at PrizePicks, it's good to be right. And if you thought that the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty was going to end this year, well, you might have been right about that, because we saw the Chiefs go down at home last night. It looked like the end of an era, felt like the end of an era. The Chiefs, 9-time reigning AFC West champions, eliminated from contention for the division. That reign is coming to an end. 9 division championships in a row. That is reminiscent of the Atlanta Braves run back from the early 90s to the mid 2000s, when they won whatever it was, 14 divisions in a row in baseball. 9 in a row is spectacular, and I'm surprised. I had the Chiefs this week in my NFL picks because I thought this 6-6 Chiefs team, what were they going to do? They're going to figure out a way to win, and they're going to figure out a way to dial it up down the stretch, which is what we have seen from them so many times, over and over and over again, when the Kansas City Chiefs have needed to reach down and find that extra gear. It's always been there for them. And last night, it wasn't. Mahomes getting picked off multiple times, Travis Kelce with the bobble drop interception. They look like a team that has come to the end of at least the glory days. Now, having said that, their losses this year, a lot of their losses have not been bad losses. They went into that game last night 6-6. And my theory going into the game was, look, they're better than that. If you look at their expected record, I think their plus-minus differential is like plus 63 or something like that. They've got the plus minus of an 8-4 team, or they had that of an 8-4 team going into the game with the Texans. Because you look at the losses. They lost by 3 on the road to the Jaguars. That doesn't look so bad now. They lost by 3 on the road to the Broncos. That's not a bad loss. They lost by 3 at Dallas. That's a respectable loss. They lost by a touchdown at Buffalo. That's not a terrible loss. They lost by 6 on the road against the Chargers. Again, not a bad loss. They lost by 3 at home. Their only home loss before last night was to the Eagles by a field goal. So these are not terrible losses. So I thought, as 6-6 teams go, the Kansas City Chiefs, pretty lively. That's a deceptively bad record for them. And Tim, last night, the Texans come in, take care of business in Kansas City, and now the Chiefs are 6-7. And I'm starting to think that this is the end of the road. You know, cue up boys to men and bring them in, because the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty maybe has met the end of the road here.
So, Ricky, I hear you on the losses, but, some of their wins, certainly that Colts win, they were lucky to have. I thought they were going to be eliminated, a couple weeks back when they really were down that whole game and pulled one out right at the end against the Colts. So, yeah, look, I just think they look old. They don't have speed. They don't have, I don't know. And even Mahomes, and we knew that he didn't have all the weapons last year either. But to me, Mahomes just, he's not doing the impossible anymore. And maybe it's because the pieces around him, I'm not sure, but I'm glad you were a believer. I wasn't. And I hate to say it, because I'm a Yankee fan and I hate when people root against the lead dog. I'm kind of over the Chiefs, and I'd like to see him step aside.
Well, I'm with you on that. I'm tired of them. And, it's not that I have anything against them. I'm just kind of tired of it. Some new blood after a certain amount of time because, again, they have been good for a very, very long time. And, I still have to believe that they're going to finish this year with a winning record and, perhaps they make the playoffs. We'll see what happens, but they got to fix things real quick because this is not the Kansas City Chiefs that we've known. And the other thing is one thing that we saw from them so often, Tim, and this Colts game is the one exception. That's the only close win that they have. They blew out some bad teams this year. They had a nice win over the Lions. They handled the Ravens back when Lamar Jackson was out. But the close games, man, for a long time, you always felt like, how many times would we see the memes of how the Kansas City Chiefs always find a way to win the close game? And a lot of them were, roughing the passer calls on Mahomes at opportune times and things like that, where it was such a thing that they won close games that people started to make jokes about it all the time. This year, they've had, as I'm counting it, they've had 8 games, 7 games where the margin was less than 10 points, and they're 1-6 in those games. And that is very, very un-Kansas City Chief-like. You might say that the Chiefs have laid an egg this year after a decade plus of success with Andy Reid. But this next story, Tim, involves a guy who literally laid an egg. That's right. New Zealand police said Friday that they have recovered a James Bond octopussy-inspired Fabergé pendant. And there it is right there. After 6 days of closely watching a man accused of swallowing the jewelry while at an Auckland store. And there it is right there. The pendant recovered Thursday after it exited the suspect's body naturally without any medical treatment needed. This is a limited edition Fabergé egg pendant, Tim, that was inspired by the movie Octopussy, in which a jewel smuggling operation involves a fake Fabergé egg. He was arrested inside Partridge Jewelers on November 28th, shortly after the alleged theft. Of course, the theft being to the inside of his body. And since then, he's been in police custody with officers stationed with him, waiting for him to expel the precious Fabergé egg, which he finally did. And I would say that if anybody is going to buy that, it had better come at a hefty discount now.
Notice
because I don't want.
Notice the rubber glove. Notice the rubber glove, which is legit. But you talk about how much you're going to pay. The price tag is still intact. His body and the acids did not. Wow. I'm telling you that I confirmed it. I read it in 3 different places. The tags were still intact
this is after.
When it came out. That's after. Okay. That's a police. That's a policeman wearing a glove because of the biological hazards associated with a piece of evidence there.
So they have to mark this one. How many did they say that they made?
50.
There were 50. Okay, yeah. There's 50. there's got to be some kind of an asterisk that goes on this one, right? You can't just put it back with the other 49 and we're all in the fucking gastrointestinal lottery here.
So crazy.
This one has to be denoted that the guy ate it, right? And then who wants to wear that? Who wants to wear that now?
But listen, it was passed without the use of drugs or anything else. So, there's something to be said for that, I guess. My God, I've heard it all now. Where's Ron when you need him? What the fuck, Ron? That is a real rubber glove. You look at that. That definitely looks like it's ready for some probing.
Well, and it looks like they've cleaned it up real nice.
Yeah.
What did they do? Just like hold it under a faucet?
I can't believe the
just
price tag
water?
was still on
Take care of that?
I got to make sure we're not being duped. I think it was the Post that said the price tag was still on it. I did read it in 2 other places.
What is the price? Do you know what the retail is?
Yeah, it was around 20K.
I don't have it here.
Yeah, I thought it was around 20K.
20K.
33,585, 33,000, but I'm pretty sure that's 33,000. There you go.
They got to come down to 28 at least.
What's your Beckett's guide rating? Do the edges are folded?
Beckett is now double pointing down arrow on this specific one. That one is dropping faster than your 1986 Jose Canseco Donruss rated rookie.
Inexplicable
I'll
staining.
tell you right now. Inexplicable state. Oh my God. Well, Tim, we've got to seg out of this into something, and what better, I guess, from intestinal distress to America's very best, my friends. It's time for America's Poll of the Day, and let's go to it now at Super 70 Sports on X, where the Eagle flies higher than what you're going to have to pay for an octopussy-inspired Fabergé egg that just blew through some guy's colon in New Zealand. And here are the options that we have today. They're all better than touching that pendant, Tim. First of all, today we have Living on a Prayer, the great John Bon Jovi hit back in the late 1980s. Bon Jovi was dominating MTV, dominating the radio at that time when I was a junior and a senior in high school, and Living on a Prayer was a huge part of that. Second, we've got the human highlight film. Dominique Wilkins himself, maybe the best in-game dunker of the 1980s, and I realize that decade also had Dr. J and Michael Jordan. He still might be the guy from that decade. Third, a little something from back home in Kentucky, bourbon. Tim, I don't know how you feel about bourbon, but we're going to find out. And then lastly, Jeopardy, the classic trivia game. Alex Trebek, Super Sky Point. Break it down for me, Tim.
This is Jeopardy. Man, this is a banger. It really is a banger. I think it's going to be close. I haven't snuck a peek. Jeopardy, it has to be the Trebek version, period. I know we've tried other hosts and Ken and all these other clowns who've come out. It's just not the same. Most famous Canadian, Ricky?
You're right.
In your book, is he on your Rushmore Canadians? I think he's got to be.
Well, he's up there. He's up there. He's higher than Alan Thicke, even.
I'd go
Tim.
there. Yeah.
He's right up there with Neil Young. Perhaps Neil Young level Canadian.
So Jeopardy is on any other poll would get my vote, but it's not going to. Dominique Wilkins, rather. To me, you're right. Like, not only in game, but when I think of power and explosiveness and just the velocity at which he dunked, the athleticism. Jordan was great. He flew. It was finesse. But holy cow, man, Dominique, when he would windmill, when he would just literally jump through the roof. He was super electric, super likable. Loved that Hawks outfit uniform. So they
had a different sound You could hear a Dominique
Oh my
Wilkins.
God, yeah.
It had a particular sound. Like, honest to God, right? I'm not
Right.
crazy. There was
No.
just sort of like a thunk sound that it would make the way that he would pull the rim down and then it would snap back up.
And it would
His
rattle
dunks just
too
had a
sometimes
different quality.
when it would snap
Yeah.
back up, you'd hear it rattle for it to reset the springs inside. No, totally. I would say he like, could you imagine if 4K or 5K was around now for him? You know, and I feel like unfortunately he lived in the shadow of MJ, so he didn't always get the, you know, certainly in Atlanta he did, but man, Dominique, good Lord.
A lot of people think he won that dunk contest, by the way. A lot of people think that Jordan got gifted that one.
Yeah, I would agree with
against him.
that. I would agree with that. Right. His reputation preceded himself there in the case of MJ. Living on a Prayer, great bar song. If I were still going to bars and getting sweaty, but just not quite. That was definitely my childhood, Ricky. That was the short shorts, that was tube socks, and then of course later in college. But I'm gonna go bourbon, man, only because, you know, it's hard to argue with a smooth bourbon, but this is not my poll. This is your poll, sir. So I'm very curious to hear you break it down. I know you don't like beer. I'm not sure where you are on bourbon. I know you love tequila.
I do love tequila. Let me start at the top. Living on a Prayer. Yeah, what was it? Is it Tommy and it's Tina and who the
Tommy
fuck
used
were
to work
they,
on the
these
docks.
losers?
He used to work on the docks, right?
Yeah.
Union's been on strike.
Yeah.
He's down on his luck. Yeah.
And is it Tina? Is
Yeah.
that
Tina
his
Tina
chick?
dreams of running away. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, those crazy kids just finding a way to make it work. Look, Neek is one of the all-timers. I remember when he was at Georgia, man. I remember watching him play college ball. Born, you know where he was born, Tim? He has an interesting birthplace, Dominique Wilkins.
It's
Always
overseas.
fascinated
Correct?
me as a kid.
Overseas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not
Paris,
Nigeria.
France.
Paris, France. Right.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Paris, France.
That's where
Yes.
Dominique comes from. Right.
Yeah. Jeopardy, look, I'm with you. It's Alex Trebek or get the fuck out of here. I can't do the modern stuff. Trebek always made the contestants more palatable for me because you've always got some contemptible fucking nerd. You know, it's like, it's Brad. He's got a PhD in British literature, you know, and I just immediately want to punch him. If there's a sports category, suddenly his thumb becomes immobile because he doesn't fucking know anything about sports. Nerds. And so Trebek would kind of needle those people a little bit. Now it's not the same. I don't watch it now.
No.
Bourbon. Look, I got to be careful what I say here as a Kentucky Colonel. I don't know if
Right.
they can decommission
You're going to lose
me
your membership.
or come and take my. Yeah, I got to be careful here. My dad was a big Maker's Mark fan, from what I understand, and bourbon is, you know, it's huge in the state of Kentucky. But I will say the only time in my life that I ever threw up from drinking, I have puked from consuming too much alcohol one time in my entire life, and it happened in college when I had way too much bourbon. And for about, I'm going to say for about maybe 6-7 years after that, just the smell of bourbon would make me feel like I was going to gag.
Wow.
It stayed with me so
Were you
intensely.
drinking it straight?
I was drinking it straight, buddy. And I
Yeah,
drank
man.
a lot. Like it was really dumb. I drank,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know, like half of a fifth or something. Bad idea.
Yeah.
And pretty much never again. I've only had bourbon since then. I have only had bourbon maybe 3 times in the last 25 plus years. One of them was when a former student of mine bumped into me in a bar and wanted to buy me a shot. And he ordered the shot before I even had a chance. He didn't ask me what I wanted. And so the shot comes out and I'm like, you know, this dude is like buying me a shot as his
Right.
former professor. This
Who
is a
does
cool
shots of
moment.
bourbon, though?
I can't ruin it by being a pussy and not doing the shot. So I did it. Then I went into the bathroom and cried like Jim Carrey and
To the
Ace
commode.
Ventura. But yeah, it was so bad. To this day, if I never have bourbon again in my life, I am all good with that. I'm just
Shots of
gonna tell
bourbon,
you.
man.
I know it's popular with other people.
That's a new one for me. I wouldn't be down with doing a
Yeah.
shot. So good for you for taking it. But
Yeah,
where
I'm
do
a
you go here, Cobb?
I'm a tequila guy. Look, this is so bourbon is my easy out. Jeopardy kind of died for me along with Alex Trebek. I still will respect the show, and it's a smart show, and you can actually learn stuff, unlike a lot of the forms of entertainment in America today where you lose brain cells. You actually can gain some knowledge watching it, so I do have to respect that. But for me, it comes down to Living on a Prayer and Dominique Wilkins, and at the end of the day, only one of those guys looks like a woman, so I'm going to have to go with Dominique Wilkins. Final
Good for
answer.
you. From Paris, France. I meant to say
Let's
Martinique.
see.
I meant to say Martinique, but it is Paris, France. I got to go back and look at some college footage of his, Ricky.
Yeah, he was great even then. It is going to be bourbon. Yuck. But good for Kentucky. As a colonel, I appreciate you helping our economic infrastructure by drinking bourbon. Just please don't offer any of it to me. Jeopardy second, Dominique third, and Tommy and Tina, well, they're going to get a participation ribbon today, Tim.
Ricky, my bad, man. My
Okay.
bad. Gina. Dreams of running away.
Gina. There you go. See, my cat's name is Tina. I have a cat named Tina, so I'm thinking of her, but it's Gina, not Gina. Gina.
Baby, it's okay. It's okay.
Tommy and Gina, not Tina. I knew something sounded wrong there. That makes a lot more sense. Gina wanted to run away, not Tina.
I want your jersey. I need that one. We can switch. Hey, this our first jersey swap. Nah. Come on, bro. Nah. This the first one. I need that one, bro. Come on, man. Hey, make sure he get the jersey. When we going to all season, bro? Yeah, I gotta make it through the season first. We got two.
Well, there you see Cam Ward getting Shedeur Sanders' jersey, and he's signing it for him. Things are looking up for Shedeur. It didn't look like anybody was going to be asking for his signature on anything anytime soon, a few short weeks ago, but pretty damn good performance for Shedeur. 364 yards passing and 3 touchdown passes, and well, maybe the Browns would have won if they'd left him on the field for the 2-point conversion. At least maybe they would have had a better chance. A disappointing way to lose 31-29 to Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans this weekend. But Shedeur is clocking some pretty decent work. Got to give him credit. The number 1 pick wants to swap jerseys with you. I guess that's worth something. But credit to Shedeur. I have to give him credit. I sat here and I was very skeptical on the program. And again, this is a week-to-week league, and we are still very early in the Shedeur Sanders era, but the job is his now. The Browns announcing the rest of the season, Shedeur Sanders is QB1. And so, in fairness, he has scaled over Dylan Gabriel, the 3rd-round pick, and right now the job is his. We'll see how he looks over the course of the last 4 games of the season, but right now we're starting to see some flashes of why at one time Shedeur Sanders was considered to be a guy who was going to go a lot higher than the 5th round. I don't know, man. Week to week, we'll see what happens. I've had moments where I thought, how did he get drafted so late? I've had moments where I thought, how did he get drafted at all? And now the pendulum seems to be swinging back to maybe the 5th round really was an incredible value for the Cleveland Browns, but time will only tell for Shedeur Sanders. And with that being said, let's go to poll replies, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, see what folks are saying about America's poll of the day. Bourbon is your winner with over 5,000 votes cast. Second place, Jeopardy. third place Dominique Wilkins, and Tommy and Gina are just going to have to keep struggling out there, living on the edge of ruin, hoping that love will be enough to keep them together. But what do you guys have to say about it? Let's see here. I can't even read this. I've got to expand the view on my laptop.
I live in New Jersey. I'm legally required to pick Bon Jovi.
87. What the hell is that username? I'm still struggling with it. Required to pick any New Jersey crooner. Well, or croaker, as the case may be there among those options. Clifton Avenue is going to ride with Turd Ferguson. It's funny because it's bigger than a normal hat, by the way. God rest the brilliant Norm MacDonald. Mike Jelly. That may not even be how he pronounces his name. He don't use jelly. Look at Neek throwing it down. That's art right there. Mike just dropping art on our ass today. Jordy Kerr says bourbon, smoked almonds, and Jeopardy is one of my favorite traditions. Jordy Kerr, happy 88th birthday today to Jordy Kerr, who's going to follow that up by watching an Alfred Hitchcock movie later tonight, probably. I would gather. A real Renaissance man. All right, my friends. With that being said, I suppose that we are done here today. Our work is finished. My thanks, of course, to everyone involved in this, to Molly, Adam, Tyler, everybody, Brooke, Chuck, everybody that I possibly could be missing in Nashville, because without Nashville, we are nowhere on this show, and I'm well aware of that. My thanks as well to P.A. Jared and to producer Tim and to Ronnie T-Shirts, gallivanting somewhere around Italy, licking his wounds, no doubt, after Ohio State was dropped by Indiana in the Big Ten championship game. But if Ronnie was here, I think Ronnie would tell you that the only trophy that really matters is the one that's going to be hoisted at the very end of the season, and I have to believe that Mr. T-Shirt still retains a high level of confidence in his Ohio State Buckeyes. But most of all, as always, I thank you, you sweet bastards, because without you, we wouldn't be here, and I love you. You can find us, as always, at Fox Nation, Outkick.com, and on YouTube at the Ricky Cobb Show channel. Don't forget to jump in there and subscribe. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, various other places. You can always find me at Super 70 Sports on X. Drop by and pay me a visit, and I will look forward to seeing you again the next time that we tee it high and let it fly with another episode of The Ricky Cobb Show.